Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Srimad Bhagavatam, 3rd Canto, Chapter 2, Text 12. Yanmarchalio paikam swayoga. Maya balam darshayata grahitam. Vishmapanam swasachaso bhagata. Vishmapanam swasachaso bhagate. Param param bhushana bhushanangam. Yanmarchalila paikam swayoga. Maya balam darshayata grahitam. Vismapanam swasachaso bhagate. Param param bhushana bhushanangam. Yanmarchalila paikam swayoga. Maya balam darshayata grahitam. Vismapanam swasachaso bhagate. Param param bhushana bhushanangam. Vaishnavis. Yat, his eternal form, which Marcha, mortal world. Lila Upayikam, just suitable for the pastimes. Swayoga Maya Balam, potency of the internal energy. Darshayata, for manifestation. Grihitam, discovered. Vismapanam, wonderful. Swasya, of his own. Cha, and. Sobaga Vridhe, of the opulent. Padam, supreme. Padam, ultimate stand. Bhushana, ornament. Bhushanangam, of the ornaments. Translation. The Lord appeared in the mortal world by his internal potency, Yoga Maya. He came in his eternal form, which is just suitable for his pastimes. These pastimes were wonderful for everyone, even for those proud of their own opulence, including the Lord himself in his form as the Lord of Vaikuntha. Thus, his, Sri Krishna's, transcendental body is the ornament of all ornaments. Purport. In conformity with the Vedic hymns, Nityo Nityanam, Chaitanash Chaitananam, Kathupanasat, the personality of Godhead is more excellent than all other living beings within all the universes in the material world. He is the chief of all living entities. No one can surpass him or be equal to him in wealth, strength, fame, beauty, knowledge, or renunciation. When Lord Krishna was within this universe, he seemed to be a human being because he appeared in a manner just suitable for his pastimes in the mortal world. He did not appear in human society in his Vaikuntha feature with 4 hands, because that would not have been suitable for his pastimes. But in spite of his appearing as a human being, no one was or is equal to him in any respect in any of the 6 different opulences. Everyone is more or less proud of his opulence in this world, but when Lord Krishna was in human society, he excelled all his contemporaries within the universe. When the Lord's pastimes are visible to the human eye, they are called prakata. And when they are not visible, they are called aprakata. In fact, the Lord's pastimes never stop, just as the sun never leaves the sky. The sun is always in its right orbit in the sky, but it is sometimes visible and sometimes invisible to our limited vision. Similarly, the pastimes of the Lord are always current in one universe or another. And when Lord Krishna disappeared from the transcendental abode of Dwarka, it was simply a disappearance from the eyes of the people there. It should not be understood that his transcendental body, which is just suitable for the pastimes in the mortal world, is in any way inferior to his different expansions in the Vaikuntha Lokas. His body manifested in the material world is transcendental par excellence, in the sense that his pastimes in the mortal world excel his mercy displayed in the Vaikuntha Lokas. In the Vaikuntha Lokas, the Lord is merciful toward the liberated or Nitya Mukta living entities, but in his pastimes in the mortal world, he is merciful even to the fallen souls who are Nitya Baddha, or conditioned forever. The 6 excellent opulences which he displayed in the mortal world by the agency of his internal potency, Yoga Maya, are rare even in the Vaikuntha Lokas. All his pastimes were manifested not by the material energy, but by his spiritual energy. The excellence of his Rasa Leela at Vrindavan and his householder life with 16,000 wives is wonderful even for Narayan in Vaikuntha. and is certainly so for other living entities within this mortal world. His pastimes are wonderful, even for other incarnations of the Lord, such as Sri Ram, Nrsimha, and Varaha. His opulence was so super excellent that his pastimes were adored even by the Lord of Vaikuntha, who is not different from Lord Krishna himself. Translation again. The Lord appeared in the mortal world by his internal potency, Yoga Maya. He came in his eternal form, which is just suitable for his pastimes. These pastimes were wonderful for everyone, even for those proud of their own opulence, including the Lord himself in his form as the Lord of Vaikuntha. Thus, his, Sri Krishna's transcendental body is the ornament of all ornaments. Om Agyanatimirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshun Militang Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Jai Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhara Sivasadi Gaura Bhaktivinoda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. These remembrances of Lord Sri Krishna are meant to trigger in you feelings of separation from Krishna. Generally, separation is considered a bad thing from the material point of view. But in the spiritual world and in the spiritual pastimes of Lord Sri Krishna, separation is the pinnacle of absorption in Krishna consciousness. So we shouldn't take these remembrances being recited here as just philosophical statements, even though they are the deepest, most profound philosophy. We should also understand that they're meant to affect a profound change in our consciousness. So you may ask, how can there be a profound, deep change in your consciousness just by hearing about Krishna, just by remembering Krishna? But remembrance of Krishna, thoughts of Krishna are non-different from Krishna. So this is the challenge of our daily japa practice. In the beginning, we take to chanting Hare Krishna as a prescription from the doctor. You take your medicine, you chant at least 16 rounds a day. So you do that because you want to get better. You may not have such a clear idea of what it means to be better fully, but at least you accept that being better will mean I'll be peaceful. I won't be so harassed by material desires. I won't be doomed to body identification because this body is going to end any moment. Some or other, I'll be more spiritual. Some or other, I don't know, maybe I'll float in the sky or levitate or something. But anyway, life will be better. They tell me if I just chant Hare Krishna at least 16 rounds a day, things will be better. I'll be blissful. Yes, I want to be blissful. And to a lesser extent, I want to be free from envy and anger, but at least I'll be blissful. So in the beginning, stages of bhakti, which may go on for some years, depending on our commitment, our dedication. In this beginning phase, we chant because we're following the doctor's order. I think we may have to close that door. I'm sorry. This breeze is giving me a tough time. We chant because of the doctor's order. And if you just take it that that's the limit of your chanting, you may hit a self-constructed barrier. All right. Another day of chanting. You got to do it because you got to do it. If you don't chant 60 rounds, the other devotees think you're in Maya. And you don't want them to think that, even though it's true. You want to uphold your social standing, your sense of self-esteem. But unless we understand, to some extent at least, how deep the Hare Krishna mantra is meant to take us, we'll lose sight, or maybe we never had the full vision of what the glories of the holy name of Krishna can bring. What is this mantra chanting? There's so many mantras. It seems like it's a good thing to chant Hare Krishna. It brings people together. Seems to make the prasad taste better. So there seems to be some obvious benefit, but I've been chanting for some years now. Where do I go next? Where do you go next? Everything is there as Krishna's name. But unless we have a deepening knowledge of Krishna and how attraction to Krishna functions and works, we may make the mistake of becoming bored with chanting and even become detached from chanting. We can make it like so many relationships happen. In the beginning, when two persons are courting, it's fireworks are exploding in the sky and everything is glorious. The feeling that you never felt before. Someone is there for me. Someone will be with me. Someone will talk to me. And then familiarity creeps in. And you realize the implications, the consequences of being with the same person 24/7. And so the relationship starts to lose its luster. As Guruvani Devi Dasi once explained to me, it becomes like running a not-for-profit business together. You're running a charity or something together as co-chairpersons or co-presidents of a charity, not-for-profit organization. And of course, that sense of duty and commitment, when sustained over many years, does provide a deeper understanding of the relationship. Chanting is also like that. We do it at first. We're on what our guest from China was telling me yesterday. We're on the Bhakti honeymoon. She told me everything is so blissful. I guess I'm still in the Bhakti honeymoon stage. So yes, that initial flash of the spiritual world, in the sense that there's something else. Wow. There's something else going on. As Prabhupada always explained, once you accept that you are spirit soul, the next step is not impersonalism, that we all are the Brahman, we all are the ultimate, we all are the supreme. No, the next step, once you understand your spirit soul, Aham Brahmasmi, is to understand there's a homeland of the spirit soul. Just like the material world is the homeland of the material body, animated by the spirit soul. But the pure spirit soul has its homeland. And as you become more advanced in bhakti, you become curious. You want to investigate that homeland of the spirit soul. Otherwise, your chanting can remain just on the platform of a ritual. It's not a ritual. Krishna's name is not ritualistic. To think so is an offense to the holy name. But we can approach the holy name in that way because we don't have any knowledge or awareness of the depths that Krishna's name is bringing to you. Now you may say, well, we're not at that stage of experiencing those depths. Therefore, why even worry about it? But you should, It's your individual responsibility to become aware of the unlimited depths that chanting Hare Krishna, hearing about Krishna, talking about Krishna can offer you. Otherwise, like you'll make it like any ordinary relationship. The thrill fades. What are you doing for me lately? You can say that to the Hare Krishna mantra. What have you done for me lately? Beyond the initial buzz that I got when I was in the Bhakti honeymoon stage. Now the realities of the relationship have set in. I got to chant because I got to chant because I got to chant. And that's as deep as you see it. If you don't have any understanding of Krishna's all attractiveness. Krishna is so attractive, as this verse tells us, that even the Lord of Vaikuntha is surpassed by Krishna's pastimes that we're hearing about. We'll talk about actually the childhood pastimes of Krishna. Then there's the boyhood pastimes of Krishna, and then the young man pastimes of Krishna, the adolescent pastimes. Krishna is the perfect adolescent. You know what your adolescent years were like. Total confusion, generally speaking. Unless you very strictly did what your parents said. You were confused as an adolescent. But Krishna shows the perfection of adolescence. His pastimes with his associates in Vrindavan are flawless. We cannot imitate such, but we try. And that's the story of our material existence. We're trying to imitate Krishna in his baby pastimes, in his little boy pastimes, and in his teenage pastimes. We either want to imitate that ourselves, or we want to have our own associates who are in those phases, and then we can exchange rasa with them. The more you understand that the goal of bhakti is to become attracted to Krishna, the more you start to shape your life in order to increase the attraction for Krishna. This is the real purpose of what I call bhakti lifestyle engineering. How to arrange your life so that you know Krishna more and you become more attracted to Krishna. So this verse is a key verse because it's pointing out Krishna is not just God, whatever we think about that or don't think about that. I want to read the verse here. The Lord appeared in the mortal world by his internal potency, Yogamaya. So as Tirtharaj Prabhu was briefly explaining yesterday, Krishna comes to this world. You may say, well, we come to this world also. What's the difference? Except that Krishna is more powerful. No, Krishna comes to this world in his own infallible way. He has his own conduit to come. And when you call Krishna achyuta, that can have various levels of meanings. You know, in Bhagavad Gita, Arjuna says, Senayor Ubayor Madhye Ratam Stapaya Mech Chuta. Oh, infallible one. You're infallible, you're achyuta, but you've taken the role of my chariot driver. So please, while I'm not forgetting your infallible position, please drive the chariot in between the two armies so I can see who's desirous of fighting. Even though you're acting as a menial servant, that's what a chariot driver is considered. The chariot driver is the menial servant of the warrior who's behind him. Even though you're in that role, I know who you are. You're achyuta. You're not subordinate to anyone. But achyuta also has deeper meanings in terms of rasa. You are achyuta because you never fail in your relationships with devotees. You never fail in exchanging of loving affairs. And another meaning of achyuta is that you can appear in this material world without incurring the slightest bit of contamination. And then we look at our own appearance in this world, and it was nothing but trouble from the time we entered the womb to the time we emerged from the womb to the time we're growing with our material body and the material body is diminishing suddenly or gradually. Our appearance in this world is troublesome. Now you may say, it's not that bad. We've had some good times. Everything in this world is always ruled by the three phases of time: past, present, and future. Going at it in a deeper way, past, present, and future, the three phases of time, shatter your original consciousness. Meaning that when your original consciousness is filtered by past, present, and future, you're conditioned. Krishna's consciousness, his activities are never filtered by time. Our activities are always filtered by time. Our endeavors for pleasure, our endeavors for achievement, our endeavors just to keep this body intact are always filtered through past, present, and future. And that is a major problem. So if you can figure this out, you save yourself so much trouble. But you can't just figure it out once. Every day you need to remind yourself of these realities. That's why every day we're meant to hear Srimad Bhagavatam. Otherwise, we're coated by forgetfulness so easily. And it's amazing how confident we are, although we've been fools in the material world for so many births. We think, just by hearing Bhagavatam one time, yeah, I got that, I understand. When are you going to say something I don't know? Repeated hearing is necessary. That's why Bhagavatam says, Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya, eternally hearing Bhagavatam. Why do I have to eternally hear something? I'm not that dumb. Well, if you think you're not that dumb, look in the mirror. If you see a material body, you're pretty stupid. As Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, Mudha Janmani Janmani, birth after birth, we've been fools. Some people have a hard time admitting that. I know what I'm doing. I'm experienced. I'm in full possession of my senses and intellectual faculties. But just the fact that you've taken a material body shows stupidity. You take a material body in the material world, and then you blame Krishna when the problems happen. Oh, why did this happen to me? Why did this tragedy happen here? That calamity there, that disaster over there. Why? Why did you come to this world? And then you think, well, if Krishna created the world, which Krishna doesn't do directly, as many of you know, Krishna has better things to do than create the material world. But you accuse. If Krishna created the material world, why is there so much misery? But actually, Krishna created the spiritual world eternally by his desire for unlimited eternal enjoyment. So who created the material world then? We did, by our limited desire for limited enjoyment. Therefore, there has to be a limited world. Because we're tiny particles, we're limited. Our enjoying capacity cannot express itself unlimitedly. separate from Krishna. So therefore, the place for our so-called pastimes of limitation happen in the world of limitation. So we created the material world in that sense. Krishna is just reciprocating our desire. Because you can't enjoy separate from Krishna, but we're determined to prove Krishna wrong. I can set myself up nicely. There'll be material comfort for the body, emotional comfort for the mind. I can do it. So what if it's just for a few years? What else do you expect me to do? What else can we do than try for material happiness? But Bhagavatam is giving you another goal. And that goal needs to be refreshed in our consciousness every day. We want to become more and more attracted to Krishna. This is what so many people have in mind about ordinary relationships. Day by day, I want to become more attracted to you. Getting to know you deeper and deeper, better and better. Sweeter as the days go by. That's the dream, right? Before you settle down to running your not-for-profit business together. How to find that sweetness in Krishna. Sweetness that even the Lord of Vaikuntha, Narayan, is amazed by. Krishna's childhood pastimes are not displayed in the spiritual world. They're Krishna's special gift to his appearances in the material world. Now, in the topmost portion of the spiritual world, Goloka Vrindavan, of course, Krishna has Yashoda, Nanda Maharaj, the elder cowherd men, the elder gopis. But there's no babyhood pastimes of Krishna, no Bal Leela. But still, the rasa is there. Nanda Maharaj and Yashoda in Goloka Vrindavan still think Krishna is our child, even though Krishna doesn't have a childhood form there. But in the material world, in Bom Leela, Krishna has a child, has a baby form. So these pastimes of Krishna as a child, you don't find in Vaikuntha, you don't find in Goloka Vrindavan. You find them in Krishna's outposts in the material world, in Vrindavan, Boma Vrindavan. So therefore, they're amazing. What to speak of Krishna's Braj pastimes as a teenager? Even the Lord of Vaikuntha, Narayan, is amazed. As the verse says, even for those proud of their own opulence, including the Lord himself in his form as the Lord of Vaikuntha. Thus, Sri Krishna's transcendental body is the ornament of all ornaments. You've heard me say many times the challenge. Those of you who wear earrings, and these days both men and women wear earrings, right? Any men have earrings here? It's quite common, right? It's quite accepted. But when you put on your earrings in the morning, your motivation is you'll look more pretty, you'll look more beautiful by putting the earrings on. Right? Isn't that? No? Huh? What's that? It add to your beauty. Thank you for that fine point. My point still stands. You're doing it to look more beautiful. You have earrings on? Okay. We're so happy you've come. You've contributed your daughter, and now you are here also. So, how attractive is Krishna? Krishna, when he wears earrings, he makes the earrings look beautiful. So his mother puts on in his childhood pastimes, his mother decorates Krishna with earrings so that the earrings and the other ornaments look more beautiful by being on Krishna's body. So the same function is there, putting on earrings, but the result is totally different. So therefore, we read in this famous verse, Param Param Bhushana Bhushanangam. Krishna is the ornament of his ornaments. Now, you can't say that you're the ornament of your ornaments. We're glad that you understand you have Krishna in your heart, and we hope that you develop that realization more and more. Thank you so much for coming. I wish I had a mother who would attend Bhagavatam class. As I often say, the only thing my mother understands about Vedic and Bhakti and Krishna consciousness is the Vedas say the oldest son should be home taking care of his mother. That's the only thing she understands. She's not neglected. She has so many children and grandchildren who are doctors and nurses and lawyers. They're all living right around her. But still, you're the oldest son. You're supposed to be home taking care of your mother. 10-minute drive away, she has my sister who's a master's degree in physical, what do you call it? Physiotherapy. An hour away is one brother who's a doctor. 5 minutes away is a granddaughter who's a doctor. So you're the oldest son. You should be home taking care of your mother. In any case, as I said, we're so happy that a mother of a devotee is coming to attend the festival. And then we have the father of a devotee. Gopinath Prabhu's father is here. Sitting through the whole kirtan. I keep wondering, what's he thinking? Oh. Again, I wish I had a father who was absorbing Krishna kirtan. My father is no longer present in this world, but what he was absorbing, I'm quite different from. As I often point out in reminiscing, his acharya, his guru was Hugh Hefner. So I don't need to say anything more about that. So anyway, the ornament of his ornaments. Just by meditating on that, you can understand Krishna in his achyuta category, infallible. His beauty is not deficient, even when his face shows dust and dirt. Mother Yashoda, Nanda Maharaj used to be in such anxiety because as Krishna in his little boy childhood stage, he and Balaram would be walking through Vrindavan and they would see some calves laying on the ground. And Krishna and Balaram would walk up to the calves laying on the ground and grab them by the tails. And the calves would suddenly, in fright, jump up and start running away. And they're running, dragging Krishna and Balaram would make Krishna and Balaram hold on to the tail even tighter. And the calf, feeling them holding on even tighter, would run even faster. And this way, Krishna and Balaram, as little children, would be dragged through the mud of Vrindavan. And what's the mud made of? Cow urine, cow dung, and milk. So they would be dragged through all this. And then the older gopis would correct the situation. And then Mother Yashoda would pick up Krishna and nurse him. You would think, how can she pick him up when he's been dragged through cow dung, cow urine, and milk? But Krishna is always beautiful and impeccable, no matter what the situation. And Mother Yashoda's love for him is always impeccable. She doesn't even consider ever that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Even she starts thinking in that way, and then Yogamaya covers her over. You didn't see that, did you? You know he can't be Supreme Personality of Godhead. You know how he is when he's hungry, he cries. You know how he is when he wants attention, he throws tantrums. You know how he steals butter, steals milk products. You know your son can't be the Supreme Personality of Godhead. What happened with Trinavatasura, the Trinavata demon? You would, looking from the ordinary point of view, it looks like a demon attacked Braj for the purpose of killing Krishna. That's one point of view. And it's true. Kamsa sent Trinavrata to kill Krishna. He had already tried with Putana. Now, Putana, Rakshasi, the child-killing witch, she took a form. She's a hideous-looking demoness, but she's able, with her yogic power, to take a most beautiful form, a form so beautiful that the elder ladies of Vrindavan, when they saw her, they said, please come right in. Go see Krishna. Hold him, nurse him. That's how beautiful that Putana made herself into. That's how beautiful her form was. And then there's Shakatasura. The cart demon had no form. Shakatasura took the form of the cart, an embodied ghostly being, no form. So first is form, Putana, then is Shakatasura, no form, and now comes Trinarvata, who is form and no form combined. So Trinavarta was sent by Kamsa. Kamsa is worried. I send Putana with a form, she's terminated. I send Shakatasura with no form, he's terminated. Now let me try Trinavarta, who will have form and no form. So what's happening from the other point of view, from Krishna's point of view? He's on his mother's lap, and he senses that Trinavarta is coming. The demon is coming to grab him. So Krishna has two reasons for becoming so heavy that Mother Yashoda has to put him down. Reason number one, Trinavarta would take both Krishna and Mother Yashoda. He's a cyclone, the biggest cyclone that you can't imagine. Makes whatever cyclone hits New Zealand look like someone just blowing a puff of air. So he was going to take both Mother Yashoda and Krishna, the acharyas explained. So Krishna's thinking, I don't want my mother to go through this. I don't want her to experience the being attacked by this demon. At the same time, I want to play in the sky. So Krishna displayed his yogic power, which would eventually turn into a competition between who's got the most yoga power, Trinavarta or Krishna. So Krishna's on his mother's lap, and suddenly he assumes the weight of the whole universe. Now, this is very strange because Mother Yashoda, she had been playing with Krishna like mothers play with a child. You've all seen that. The mother has the baby on her lap and lets the baby rise up and fall into her hands. And how many mothers have done that? Raise your hands. It's one of the joys of motherhood, yes? She's doing that, and then Krishna becomes so heavy, she can't tolerate it. Why is my child becoming so heavy? So she decides to put Krishna on the ground. She can't put him on a bed because she's thinking the bed may break. Notice, she's always thinking, he's my child, he's my child. If you had a child who suddenly assumed the weight of the whole universe, you'd start thinking, what kind of child is this? But no, she's just thinking, oh, my child has become so heavy. Under the influence of Yoga Maya, she only thinks this is my child. So she puts Krishna down on the ground and goes to tend some household affairs. In a split second or so, she changed her mind. How can I leave Krishna alone on the ground? But in that short time, Trinavarta came, and he covered, in his form as a cyclone, covered the whole of Braj with wind, with particles of pots and bricks and trees, and he created a massive whirlwind, which had two effects. It blinded everyone's eyes so they couldn't see what he's going to do. And also, it prevented the sound of the whirlwind of the cyclone, prevented Mother Yashoda and the other gopis from hearing the cry that went out. Where is Krishna? Where is Krishna? No one can hear anything. No one can see anything. So Trinavarta thought he had the whole situation covered. They can't see and they can't hear. And so Trinavarta grabs Krishna. Now you might say, how can a demon grab Krishna? But Krishna wants to have fun. He has different potencies. And his Aishvarya potency, his opulence, wanted to do something. Krishna, let's have some fun. His own energy is saying like that, thinking like that. I want to cut me loose. I want to do something. It's hard for us to understand, maybe, because we don't have such energies. The energy in Krishna wants to create pleasure for Krishna. Let me show something. Let me make a show of strength. Let's fly in the sky. So that's Krishna's point of view. He wants to play by flying in the air. So Trinavarta, the whirlwind cyclone demon, grabs Krishna and takes him high into the air. What's happening on the ground? Remember, they can't see, they can't hear, but finally, as the sound of the cyclone diminishes because it's way up in the air, they hear Mother Yashoda crying so pitifully, like a mother cow who's separated from her calf. Just think what a mother would feel like losing her child in that way. Where is Krishna? He's gone. She collapses on the ground, wailing. The sound of her grief, the acharyas say, could melt stones and wood. But you'd say, what is this? Life with Krishna is supposed to be eternal, full of knowledge and bliss. Why this grief, this anguish, this lamentation? There is no material lamentation in Krishna's pastimes. Everything is of the nature of eternity, full knowledge and bliss, even the grief. Therefore, Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur explains that The happiness of Ayodhya in the spiritual world stands on the head of the happiness of Vaikuntha. And the happiness of Dwarka in the spiritual world stands on the head of the happiness of Ayodhya. But the distress of Goloka, Vrindavan, stands on the head of all the happinesses of the other places. Now figure that out. The distress, the lamentation in Vrindavan stands on the head of all the happinesses of Ayodhya and Vaikuntha. Because the so-called lamentation and anguish brings the devotee closer to Krishna. And that's what it's all about, coming closer to Krishna. So even the anguish and lamentation, the grief that Mother Yashoda is going through, where's my son? That's bringing her closer to Krishna. It's a form of bliss, hard to understand. If you want to get technical, this is the knowledge of Advaya Gyan, knowledge of real non-duality. The impersonalists think non-duality means no variety, all just monotonous oneness. Real non-duality, Advaya, means whatever variety is there, it all has the effect of eternity, full knowledge and bliss, whether it's happiness or distress. Can you understand this? By hearing, the gradually understand. So Krishna is now carried away by Trinavarta. On the ground, there's all kinds of lamentation going on. The older gopis have joined Mother Yashoda in wailing, crying. So Krishna's way up in the air, so high on purpose. He's allowing the demon, Trinavarta, to take him so high because Krishna wants the ladies of the heavenly planets to have a glimpse of him. That's how high Trinavarta is taking him. And Krishna's fragrance is spreading through the heavenly planets, the fragrance of his childhood body. But there's this commotion down on the ground, way down on the ground on earth. And Krishna's saying, all right, enough is enough. They've had enough grief. Time for me to end this pastime of playing, riding in the sky. I've had enough fun. So Krishna he's riding on the back of Trinavarta, and he grabs his neck and starts squeezing it. And Trinavarta can't breathe. He can't move his arms. He can't move his legs. His eyes are starting to pop out. He's not flailing about like Putana. When Krishna was sucking out the life of Putana, she was flailing about, her arms, her legs. Leave me, child. Leave me, leave me. And then she changed back into her original form as a demoness. But Trinavarta couldn't do that. He couldn't move because Krishna's grip on his neck was so tight. And then Krishna starts assuming the weight of the universe. He momentarily had suspended that in order so Trinavarta could carry him away. First, he was heavier than the heaviest, and Mother Yashoda had to put him down. Then when Trinavarta comes, Krishna becomes light like an ordinary child. Okay, take me. I want to play in the sky. And then after playing in the sky sufficiently, giving the ladies of the heavenly planets a glimpse of him, then he becomes heavier again, heavier than the heaviest. Meanwhile, while becoming heavier than the heaviest, he's choking Trinavarta by clutching the back of his neck. So Trinavarta is forced out of the sky, and he lands on earth in Braj. He lands on his back with his arms and legs spread, and Krishna's on his chest. He lands on stone, if you want to know the details. He lands on a stony area of Braj. This is Krishna's arrangement, that I don't want you landing near the cows because the cows will start running here and there and making the ground super muddy. So you'll crash down where there's stones. So Trinavarta lands on his back, Now, you could say he died in the air by being choked by Krishna, or you could say he died hitting the ground. In either case, he died. And so there is Krishna playing on his chest, and all the elder gopis got there first before the men. And they were astonished to see little Krishna so happy. Why is Krishna so happy? He's got a big playground. He's got the big chest of the demon to play on. This is Krishna and he's 1 year old by ordinary calculation. His form is of a 1-year-old child, having a wonderful playground on the chest of Trinavarta. So this is how Krishna does his childhood pastimes. If he displays his opulences in such a way that he's still human-like, whereas in Dwarka, he doesn't worry about that. But in Braj, Krishna packages his Chincha Shakti, his inconceivable potencies, as a human being, Nara Leela, human-like pastimes. So the sweetness is always containing the Aishvarya. Whereas in other places, when Krishna leaves Braj, he's not so concerned about that. Therefore, okay, 16,000 wives, 16,000 palaces, 4 arms sometimes. But in Braj, in these childhood pastimes especially, that's just like Putana. When Krishna killed Putana, it was inconceivable that a few months old child could kill such a witch, but he did it like a little infant. He sucked her breast, and incidentally sucked out her life too. But that shows you how he packages his inconceivable potencies. In Vrindavan, he packages them in such a way that they don't violate humanness, while at the same time they're inconceivable. This is Nara Leela, human-like pastimes. So Uddhava here in this verse today is remembering Krishna's pastimes. And that's the wealth of our life. You may wonder, what's it like when you become an older devotee, if you make it that long? What's it going to be like? Simply, you become more and more attracted to hearing about Krishna, his name, form, qualities, and pastimes. Knowing that's the case, you might as well start now. Getting to know Krishna better. And you do that through your service. Your service builds your attraction to Krishna's name, form, qualities, and pastimes. And your attraction to Krishna's name, form, qualities, and pastimes increases your service. So in this way, the so-called daily or practical affairs of your devotional service feed into your hearing and chanting, and your hearing and chanting feeds into your so-called practical affairs. This is the Bhakti loop. But if you just think, I will just do some practical affairs, I won't worry about my hearing and chanting so much, then you can become just like a fruitive worker, like a karmi, eventually, because you'll lose sight of the goal, just like in a material relationship. You forget what it was like when you first met the person and decided to marry. It's all forgotten now. After 10, 20 years, what am I doing with you? It's not the same as when we married. Get out of here. So we can treat our Krishna consciousness in that way because we forgot or we never firmly understood due to our own fault that we're supposed to be increasing our attraction for Krishna. So why have this bias that, well, what's the big deal about hearing about Krishna? What's the big deal about hearing the Hare Krishna mantra? When the relationship gets to that point, there's trouble. To get out of that trouble, we need inspiring association. Yes, you can get out of it on your own if you're very determined. If you can do a self-analysis, put yourself under a microscope. Why am I thinking like this? Bhagavatam says something else. Why am I thinking like this? If you put yourself under a microscope, check yourself out and get yourself going in the right direction again, that's very good. But most persons need inspiring association. And even those who are able to be self-motivated, they relish inspiring association. So in all cases, satam prasangan mama virya sambharo, talking about Krishna becomes sweeter and more powerful in the association of devotees, especially those devotees dedicated to reviving their relationship with Krishna. All right. Any questions? Yeah. When you start to chant Hare Krishna, the usual notion is that how will I ever have time to do 16 rounds? There's just so many hours in the day. How can I ever? How do devotees do it? How do they? Okay, I can understand 1 or 2 rounds a day, but how do you find time to chant 16 rounds? Practically every new devotee, new practitioner thinks like that. I don't know how they do it, but if they say you gotta chant 16 rounds, I guess you gotta do it. If you want to be known as a good devotee, what you find out is that the deeper you go into the chanting, the more time you have because you're not wasting so much time in your mind. Thoughts take time. So when you're meditating on your material desires and your material anxieties and material problems and material hopes for happiness, all those thoughts take time. But by chanting Hare Krishna, those thoughts are diminished. You have more time. We're so accustomed to thinking of time being spent with our body. I move my body in this way. I walk from point A to point B. That took time. We don't think that I was thinking about how am I going to gratify my senses? How come I'm not getting what I want? That's time. It takes time. You're going from point A to point B in your mind. So chanting Hare Krishna saves you time. In fact, you could say chanting Hare Krishna creates more time for yourself. So there is a way that even a beginning practitioner can understand how bhakti transcends time. Got it? Anything else? Yes.
Hare Krishna, Gurudev. Very mesmerizing lecture. I have a question about Krishna, increasing attraction for Krishna in our heart. So, is there any sign or any kind of notion where we know that, oh yeah, I'm on the right path and my attraction for Krishna is increasing? So is it just like we enjoy the past, we enjoy listening about hearing Krishna's pastime and qualities? Apart from that, is there any other sign which shows that our attraction for Krishna is increasing in our day-to-day life?
When you start asking yourself increasingly and gradually at every moment, is what I'm doing giving pleasure to Krishna? The more you do that, the more you're in the spiritual world. Material world means what's in it for me? How am I being happy? Spiritual world means how is Krishna being happy? What are the essential features of Vrindavan, everyone is always thinking of Krishna's comfort. And everyone is always increasing their attachment for Krishna. And if you cling to those two principles, you can make Vrindavan anywhere, in any nation, in any neighborhood, in any home. So this is the gift of the parampara, how to make Vrindavan anywhere and everywhere. You can do that. You can create Vrindavan in your own home. Just like Bhakti Thakur shows that pinnacle of bhakti in his song Shuddha Bhakata Charanarenu. He talks about how he was doing arti at his home and suddenly his house turned into Goloka Vrindavan. That's the peak potential. Of course, Bhaktivinoda Thakur is no ordinary person. At the same time, he's showing you this is the peak potential. If you can just get a drop of that peak potential, how glorious that'll be. Ladies have all. Oh, yes.
Incident where this devotee is praying to Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur to help him serve Prabhupada better, and then Prabhupada finds out and corrects him, saying that you can't jump your guru to have a direct relationship with the Param Guru. So as members of ISKCON, we all pray to Prabhupada, who is our Param Guru, and subsequent generations will do the same. How is that different? I just would like to hear how that's different to that other situation where someone was praying to Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur.
Prabhupada would say different things about that at different times, depending on the principle that he wanted to illustrate in his answer. So one time, as you're pointing out, he corrected the devotee, don't jump over the current link in the parampara. Other times he would say, yes, you can pray to Bhaktisiddhanta. He would tell his disciples, Prabhupada would tell his disciples, you can pray to Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur because the grandfather is always more merciful than the father. So it depends on which aspect he wants to illustrate. In ISKCON, we're all reliant on the foundational teachings of Srila Prabhupada. At the same time, those foundational teachings don't give you the license or the permission to jump over your current link in parampara. You see it all together in one package. And you can't legislate how persons are attracted. Because we're all reliant on Prabhupada's books. The proper generic principle is that you approach the grand spiritual master through your spiritual master. In the case of ISKCON, the grand spiritual master for most of you, Srila Prabhupada, is so foundational. And therefore his servants, his disciples will point out that dependency on Srila Prabhupada because he's the founder acharya of ISKCON. Whereas Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur was not the founder acharya of ISKCON. Again, though, it's a question of the heart. If some devotee says to me, I just love reading Prabhupada's books, what am I supposed to say? Oh, no, don't jump over. At the same time, if someone says, I'm just reading Prabhupada's books, I don't have to listen to what you say. Who are you anyway? You just gave me a spiritual name, gave me some beads, that's it. I'm just focusing on the grandfather. That's wrong too. The problem with bhakti is it's so deep and it requires maturity. And we are very shallow and immature in our trying to understand Krishna, in our trying to understand Krishna's pure devotees. We're like, when I say we're speaking for people in general. The example coming to my mind was when I was an 8-year-old, I saw one couple sitting on a couch together. And it was a big couch, but they were sitting with no separation between them. And so as a little boy, I was curious about this. Why are they sitting so jammed together when there's so much room on the couch? So, being an innocent child, I asked them, why are you sitting so close together? And they kind of looked at me and smiled and said, you'll find out. Wait till you get older, you'll find out. The nectar of sitting together jammed on the couch. So we're kind of like that in terms of we're immature and plodding and inept in our dealings, not only with Krishna, but also when it comes to dealing with the parampara. We race off to one extreme or the other. Only Prabhupada. Or then we go to the other extreme. Only my current guru. That's it. To see everything all together, how it all the parts work together for the whole, that requires maturity. So you can go too far one extreme, or you can go too far the other extreme. So often you'll see devotees, they love the pendulum ride. They ride the pendulum to one extreme, then, oh, no. And they ride it to the other extreme. Ride it to one extreme. Only Prabhupada, no one else. Only my initiating guru. No one else. To see the whole package together requires maturity, which is often lacking. But because Lord Chaitanya, Lord Nityananda are so merciful, they're giving even such immature, shallow persons a chance to render Krishna Bhakti, which is the deepest phenomenon in existence. Yes.
I was just wondering when you were speaking about cultivating our attraction for Krishna. Sometimes I notice in myself there can be material attractions that come in, whether it be to
You noticed.
Yeah.
Yes.
Material attractions of like certain services or
Material.
attractions. Like I can be materially like oh, I like this kind of kirtan. Or,
Oh, you mean like that?
yeah. So like if I have a
material preferences within bhakti.
Yes. So how do I make sure that doesn't get in the way of my spiritual attraction?
As a young devotee, don't take such predilections so seriously. I like Jagannath. I like Balaram. The example I often give is like little boys and little girls saying, oh, he likes you. She likes you. Everyone knows. I don't know if they still use the expression. It's called puppy love. They still use that expression? There's little kids playing around. I remember some jingle. I don't know if kids still say it when they tease each other about, you like her, she likes you. So and so and so and so are up the tree. Kissing. They still say that. First comes love, then comes marriage, then comes so and so in the baby carriage. They still say like that. It's child's play. I like Jagannath. I like Balaram. Just let your maturity and bhakti increase And then naturally, you'll start to feel some real attraction for some aspect of Krishna's variegatedness. As I often point out, Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur says that by worshiping Gauranga in Dasya, in servitude, all the other rasas open up. So by being the servant of Lord Chaitanya, and we worship Lord Chaitanya as his servant, all the other rasas, Braj rasas, open up through that portal, by going through that portal. So just serve Gauranga and everything comes to you. But you should know the system. And therefore, by knowing the system, you'll be more attracted and more sustained in your endeavor. The system is worshiping Gauranga. That leads to all the Braj rasas. Yes.
You explained that Krishna's baby pastimes don't happen in Goloka Vrindavan. They only
Right.
happen here on. So
And his
in his
presence in the material
in
universes.
Boma Vrindavan, yeah. I didn't know that. So I'm just wondering. I'm probably thinking from the material point of view, but does that mean that in Goloka Vrindavan they can remember the baby pastimes? Like, how does it all fit?
Mother Yashoda always thinks Krishna is my dependent child. Even in Bom Leela, when Krishna so-called grows and leaves Vrindavan and goes to Mathura, Dwarka, and then comes back to Braj, and he looks like a 16-year-old. He never ages beyond 16. Mother Yashoda still puts him on her lap because she says, "It's my baby boy." So Krishna's babyhood pastimes are especially for exchanging rasa with Mother Yashoda and Nanda Maharaj. And his little boy pastimes are especially meant for the cowherd boys, the gopas. And his teenage pastimes are especially meant for the gopis. So try to understand, in Goloka Vrindavan, Mother Yashoda still sees Krishna as her little child, even though Krishna is eternally a 16-year-old. Navayovanam, he never ages beyond that. And even when he so-called ages, that only happens in Boma Leela, in his earthly pastimes, where his transcendental body seems to be a baby and then a little boy and so on. So your question, you still have some? You're trying to see things like a lawyer. Let's get to the point here.
I can't help it. Yeah, I guess my question was, do they kind of remember him, even in Goloka, even though
He's there.
but as a baby? You know how we remember our past, our babies.
I don't
as
know
a
how
mother.
we remember our
No.
husband.
As a mother.
You're the mother, not
Yeah.
me.
I remember my son's baby pastimes, when he was young. But that doesn't
To Mother
happen
Yashoda and Nanda Maharaj, Krishna is always their child, and all that entails. Anything else? Yes.
What happens to the relationship with the guru and disciple if the guru goes to Goloka and the disciple goes Vaikuntha or some other planet?
You're making geographic divisions here. You want a GPS system or something? I'm in Vaikuntha. How do I find the guru in Goloka? How everyone is all together on the spiritual platform. That's not possible to understand in the conditioned stage. You're thinking in terms of time and space. Time and space have no function in the spiritual world. Anything else? Yeah.
Hare Krishna Gurudev, thanks for class. You're mentioning the necessity of regular reading, and that reading Bhagavatam once is not enough. But in general, it seems it's hard to find people who are inspired to read on their own accord, whether it be through outreach or in general. Most people are more inclined to practical activity. So I was wondering, how can we inspire those who we outreach to or give books to on the street to not just take the books, but actually read them?
That's your service, rather than say, well, no one reads books these days and who has the time. You take it as an opportunity to do more service. Figure out how to help them turn the pages. Not simply say, oh, no one reads anymore. Help them read the books. That's why we have these outposts like Bhakti Lounge, the Loft. They're actually meant to inspire people to get the books and read them and apply them, rather than just saying, oh, what's the use? People don't read anymore. Help them read. Take the situation as an opportunity for more service. It's your Priya. When you're reading with your eyes, you're hearing. Mentally, you're hearing. The mind is a repository of all the sense objects. All the senses bring the objects into the mind. So if you're really clever, you understand that the whole process of material existence is a mental creation. You get the idea of material indulgence, and then with that idea, that infuses the mind into the actions done by your material senses. And then the mind further infuses itself into the sense objects, because it's all a mental affair. So even though the senses and the sense objects are involved, your mind has saturated all those. So in that way, the whole process of material activity is a mental creation, a mental concoction. So if you can figure that out, you save yourself a lot of trouble. Your mind has the idea, I shall enjoy, I shall control. Remember, I always explain, if you want to enjoy material life, you have to control to some degree. Maybe it's just tinting your hair a different color, shaping your eyebrows. But that's all that control is for bringing about, somehow or other, bringing about more pleasure. So you have that idea in mind, and then with that mental idea, you utilize your senses, arms, ears, legs, so on and so forth. So in that way, even your knowledge acquiring senses and working senses, karmendriyas and gyanendriyas, are instruments of your mind. And then this idea that you're going to be happy by connecting with the sense objects, that's also in the mind. So in that way, the sense objects are also in the mental category. They exist on their own, but you've infused them with your mind. This sense object has the potential to give me pleasure. That's a mental idea. So therefore, Krishna explains in the second chapter of Bhagavad Gita that when you become free from all these mental concoctions, then you're properly situated. So you can study your mind if you have the interest, how it creates all these artificial realities. Anyway, I did more than answer your question. Yes.
Hare Krishna, you mentioned how Krishna has better things to do than to create the material world.
Yes.
And but from a human, like a limited perspective, it seems like creating the material world could be kind of fun. So does Krishna come in a human-like form? Does he really come for his pleasure, or does he come in that form so that we can understand him?
He came for his own pleasure, and his own pleasure shows you what real pleasure is. You participate in that. So yes, he comes to attract you, but at the same time, he's enjoying and showing you your real enjoyment is to be with me. Indirect enjoyer. You can be the indirect enjoyer. So yes, Krishna has better things to do directly than create the material world. He creates the material world by an expansion of an expansion of an expansion. Just think, Garbhodakshaya Vishnu reclining on the ocean, and from his navel comes a lotus flower. How artistic is that? And on top of the lotus flower is Brahma. And the lotus flower stem contains all the seeds of the 14 planetary systems. I don't think it's popular anymore, but remember, maybe some of you, at least back in my university days in the early 70s, late 60s, water beds were so popular. Anyone remember water beds? It's supposed to be so cool, going to sleep on a water bed, reclining. Anyone ever tried it? So, but then when we hear about Garbhodakshaya Vishnu reclining on the ocean, and from his navel comes a lotus flower, we think, oh, mythological. Yet here we are wanting to recline on a waterbed, have that feeling of floating. So the pastime of creating the material world is not directly Krishna. Krishna has better things to do, like dancing with beautiful girls in the middle of the night. What do you think about that? What happens if you would try to do that?
Probably nothing good.
And of course, all the Krishna's dancing partners are his energy. So he's still self-sufficient. The situation's always Krishna and his energies. They're never separated. It's just that in the material world, you get the false impression that everything is separated from Krishna. And that false impression is also Krishna's energy. So even when you think there's no Krishna, or this is disconnected from Krishna, Krishna is nothing, Krishna is mythological, that's Krishna's energy. That's how perfect and complete Krishna is. You can't get away from him. Even if you think, I'm away from Krishna, that's also Krishna's energy. Yes, Navagori.
In Chaitanya Charitamrita, we read about personalities from Chaitanya Lila, the incarnations of personalities from Krishna Lila. And sometimes it is described that multiple personalities from Krishna Lila incarnate a personality in Chaitanya Lila. So this seems to contradict the idea that we are eternally individuals.
Why? That's Nabagori with her physics understanding. You'll read more about that in Brihad Bhagavatamrita, how multiple personalities can appear as one person. You're dealing with spiritual subject matter. The individuality is eternal, but multiple persons can appear as one person. How that is so cannot be understood materially. So you made a good attempt to try to figure it out. You've read Brihad Bhagavatamrita? Okay. You have that to look forward to if you've read Prabhupada's books sufficiently. On January 1st, as always, the last class will be mainly questions. So if you didn't have a chance to ask your questions now, we'll gradually get to them, at least by the morning of January 1st. All right. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna.